Webinar. My name is McKay Allen. I'm the content manager at Log My Calls. We have these marketing webinars once or twice a week, and we're really excited you're here today. Thank you for coming. This webinar is going to give us a great deal of information about local search and how to make sure that local customers can find your business. And we're really excited today that Tyler Donahue with Yext has agreed to join us today. He manages a lot of their strategic partnerships, and he knows local search inside and out. He was also, at one point in his life, the actual Duke Blue Devil mascot, which, regardless of whatever else he accomplishes in his life, will no doubt be the highlight.
I've accepted that is going to be the peak of anything I ever do. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, no problem. And we're excited Tyler's agreed to join us today. Of course, we've probably all heard of Yext. They are really the local listings expert, allowing you to list all over the web in a lot of different places quickly and easily. And they know what they're doing. They're growing quickly. They're based in New York, I believe. And Tyler can give us a little more background on the company and what they do and what he does there. Just a couple of house cleaning items on the webinar itself. First, after the webinar, this webinar is being recorded. You can just go to logmycalls.com and then click on Webinar Series, and the recording of the webinar will be available within just a few minutes, as quickly as I can get it up after the webinar. So here you see this webinar sign-up link. So the recording will be here as well. We also have a couple more webinars this week as well. We also want to offer everybody who attends our webinars a free trial of Log My Calls. If you don't know, Log My Calls is a call tracking, call recording, and call analytics solution. So basically, we're like Google Analytics for the phone. We can tell you which channels are producing phone calls, and we can also tell you what happened on those phone calls. And so it's a great tool. So use it for 30 days for free for coming to the webinar. And then finally, if you have questions from today's webinar, and I hope you do, we've left some time at the end of the webinar for question and answer with Tyler about local search and about local marketing. Just type those questions in to the little question bar on your GoToWebinar pane there, and at the conclusion of his presentation, we will address those questions to Tyler and go through as many of them as we possibly can. So make sure you stick around for the Q&A. So with that, I do want to introduce Tyler. As I said, he manages their strategic partnerships with Yext, and we're really excited he's agreed to join us today. So with that, Tyler, I'll turn it over to you, and I will actually give you control of the screen. So you can start your presentation whenever you're ready, Tyler.
All right. Sounds like a plan. I think you should be seeing my screen.
You're good. I see it. We're all yep.
Awesome.
And your sound is good, and your screen is good. So I think we're all set. And I hope I did an adequate job introducing you.
Yes. No. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I want to. First of all, once again, welcome everyone to the webinar entitled Local Search is Broken, How to Use Local Information to Drive Foot Traffic. So today we're really going to talk and discuss the importance of location data online and how you can take advantage of it. Before we start, I just want to quickly say our thoughts and prayers go out to anyone affected by the bombings in Boston. It was an awful thing, and we're really thinking about you, and we're really, you're in our thoughts and prayers. So anyway, back to the webinar that we all came for. I'd like to thank Log My Calls for helping us put this together. We got the great chance of actually, being at a booth next to McKay and the guys from Log My Calls at a conference a couple of weeks back. They kind of put out this idea, and we were very happy to kind of work with them and put this together. As McKay mentioned, I am Tyler Donahue. I currently work as the Media Partnership Manager at Yext. For those not really familiar with Yext, we're a New York City technology startup that helps sync business listing information across 50-plus different sites like Yahoo, Yelp, MapQuest, and Superpages. So I understand that this may sound like a whole bunch of jargon, so let me contextualize it a bit. Let's say I own an ice cream shop. I can come and use Yext platform to make sure local customers can find me. With our services, you can update your business name, address, phone, hours of operation, methods of payment, pictures, videos, menus, etc. across our vast publisher network. You update your location data once, and it syncs everywhere to our entire network instantaneously. Similarly, let's say now I'm the CMO of Haagen-Dazs, and I have thousands of locations across the country. I can still use our platform, Yext platform, to update all my locations either individually or all at once. We currently work with over 100,000 different businesses from across the country, and these are businesses from a small mom and pop shop all the way up to enterprise clients like a Citibank, State Farm, and FedEx. So at Yext, I'm on the business development team, and I handle all relationships where another company, business, or website promotes Yext Power Listings and refers customers to us. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you guys have about Yext after this webinar. So before we actually dive into local data, let me introduce you myself. I find that these things are significantly more enjoyable when I actually know who the voice is coming out of my computer. And since you all just signed on to listen to me for at most an hour, it's the least I can do for you. So as I said before, my name's Tyler Donahue. I grew up in the ever-thrilling suburban Connecticut. As McKay mentioned, I did attend Duke. While I was there, I did serve as the Blue Devil, and this is purely because McKay asked for it. Here's actually a picture of me in the Blue Devil suit at the end of my senior year. So, while there, I developed a huge love for Duke basketball, and then since leaving Duke and moving up from Durham, I've been working for Yext, helping to solve this business listings issue. So, as McKay mentioned, save all your questions or send all your questions into McKay, and he will ask them at the end. All right, so let's start. What exactly is location data? At first thought, you would probably assume that it's basically the information surrounding where you can find a business. And you know what? You would be partially correct. That's definitely part of it, but not all of it. There's significantly more to location than just where. Because, the honest truth is that you need to go beyond just where your business is, because that's what your customers actually want. So I present for your educational consumption the layers of location. As I just mentioned, if you assume location data was just where a business was, you would be partially correct. That's because the first layer of location is the where. This is the most basic part of location data. And you have to realize the where is not just where the business physically is. It's more than a physical location. It's where a customer can reach you. So the first layer of location is where a customer will find the business name, address, phone number, pretty much all the ways that the business can contact you. So at this layer is where you find, as I said, business name, address, and phone number. It's something that we refer to in the industry as your NAP, name, address, phone, NAP. Just quick little jargon to throw at you. So if you have your NAP correct across the web, you're going to be guaranteed that customers can locate you. However, how many times have you gone online to look up more details about a business? Maybe you went onto Google and you wanted to search what time the local coffee shop is open, or maybe what type of store is the new store opening down the street. This is the information that's really going to help you as a consumer to actually decide whether or not you want to take that trip into that particular store. This is the information that can be found at the second layer of location. It's the what. Here is where you will find details such as hours, payment type, a business description, search categories. This is all the information that starts to drive foot traffic into your store. All these data points will help a consumer to classify what a business is and when/how you can access that business. So by utilizing these first two layers of location, a potential customer has the ability to find your store, which is great. However, unless you have a monopoly on your market or you're the only gig in town, you still are going to be missing out on customers and on sales. So that's where the third and arguably most important layer of location comes in. So what's this layer? It's the why. Why a customer should choose your business over a competitor. This is the layer where you can add rich local content to help differentiate your business from your competitors. At this layer, you can add photos, videos, clickable featured messages, staff bios, menus, calendars, product lists. You know, the point of local discovery is moving more and more online and more towards mobile. So you have to make sure that when these customers find you, they're learning why they should come to your business. You need to differentiate yourself through your location data. All right. So completely understand if you don't believe how important online location data is to driving foot traffic. I know I was skeptical when I started working at Yext. So at Yext, we recently commissioned a survey with industry experts Greg Sterling and Andrew Shotland. So they collected a whole bunch of information, ran a whole bunch of different surveys, and compiled it all in a document that we call the Yext Quarterly, which you can find on our website, and I'll give you the link at the end of this webinar. So one of the things that Greg Sterling in particular found was that 75 to 80% of disposable income is spent within 20 miles of the home. So now I'm sure there's some of you saying, all right, so clearly the majority of income is spent near the home. But why should I put the effort into location data? You know, my local customers know where I am. If I'm going to put effort into developing my presence online, I want to work to increase my e-commerce. Well, that's, valid opinion. I'm not going to say it's an incorrect opinion. However, let's look at the numbers. For the sake of argument, we're going to define the quote-unquote local economy as a combination of travel expenditures, retail, and spend on local services. Now, it's obvious why we include retail and local services in this total, but it might be a little less obvious as to why we include travel expenditures. You have to think, when you travel, the money you spend is not just the money you spend to get to that location. Let's say, you're going to take a trip to New York. The money you spend on that trip is more than just the money you paid for airfare or train fare or gas to get to New York. It's also the souvenirs you purchase. It's the play you go to see. It's all this spend that is very clearly local and very clearly, although not local to where you live, local to New York. Also, it's worth noting that this estimate of the local economy is a very conservative estimate. This is because we aren't including any of the money spent on necessities, such as food and rent. So, what's the big picture here? If we combine retail spend on local services, and travel expenditures, we get a rough idea of the quote-unquote local economy or local spend in the U.S. That total comes out to $8 trillion. Now, even the most aggressive estimates of U.S. e-commerce still have it at less than 5% of total spending. So in this local economy, e-commerce accounts for $400 billion worth of spend. Now, that's a very sizable number, don't get me wrong. But let's dig a little bit deeper here. According to studies done by Google, 51% of purchasing decisions are impacted by online research. In other words, a little over half of all purchases, online as well as offline, are influenced and affected by content on the internet. With this new fact, let's return to the local economy we were just discussing. Of that $8 trillion that accounts for all local spend, roughly $4 trillion of that local spend is both offline and influenced by the internet. In other words, offline spend that is influenced by the internet is 10 times greater than e-commerce. 10 times. Just think of all the emphasis people are putting on e-commerce. Everyone is seeming to act like this is the next big thing, even though there are much, much more effective ways to drive revenue, such as through your local listings. People don't care about old school techniques as much. They're not as sexy as, an online and newer technique. However, as we continually see these technological advances, new listing sites, new apps, the techniques, these old school techniques, are becoming more and more sophisticated and really need to be taken advantage of. So, now that I've convinced you all, or at least attempted to convince you all, of the importance of location data, I have some bad news. Local is broken. Now, don't kill the messenger, but I have to tell you, local is unfortunately broken. So part of the surveys that we commissioned with Andrew Schottland and Greg Sterling, we wanted to determine how businesses were listed online and how their customers were finding these businesses. And what we found was very interesting. 41.7% of customers who responded to our survey claim that search engines are their primary local discovery tool. Meanwhile, 14% of respondents considered internet directories and apps their primary local discovery tool. So what can we take from this? Quite simply, location information is incredibly fragmented inside and outside of businesses. Think about this. Only 41.7% said search engines are the primary local discovery tool. That's search engines. That's not saying 41.7% say Google is the primary local discovery tool. That's search engines in general. So even at a most, if you're only focusing on Google, you're still only getting at most 41% of customers looking for local businesses. In a simpler time, we had the yellow pages. If you needed a plumber, you opened up the yellow pages to the plumber section and you called one. It was that simple. These days, these incredibly simple days, are long gone. The sad truth is, I know I'm part of this generation, but the newest generation that has come into the workforce and therefore has discretionary income that they can spend probably has never used the yellow pages for anything other than a fly swatter. Nowadays, customers, especially the younger generation, look to find businesses on hundreds of different sites and apps. And what's worse, these businesses don't have control over their information. While this fragmentation benefits the customers by allowing them the most specific search possible, it forces businesses to navigate an overwhelming number of sites and leaves them no easy way to update their information. Leaves them no easy way to add this rich detail that would persuade customers to come to their store. And it's not just the businesses that are getting hurt by this. The publishers like Yahoo and Yelp suffer. They struggle to get the valuable and correct information they need because, quite frankly, no system currently exists to connect the structured data needed to power maps and match local consumer intent with the businesses that own it. So the result of all this is that customers and consumers get bad data from local listings. In fact, in our survey, we found that 63% of respondents had encountered incorrect location data online. So we wanted to dig deeper. We wanted to find out what industries and what part of data was incorrect. So part of the surveys that we did, we wanted to interview businesses before they signed up for Yext services. We wanted to find out what type of location data is incorrect in which industries. And here's what we found. Overall, 18% of businesses had missing or incorrect phone numbers. 19% have a missing web URL. 43% had a missing or incorrect address. And worst of all, 14% were missing a listing entirely. As you can see, though, the rate at which they are missing or incorrect information was not the same across all industries. For instance, a lot of real estate agents don't have a physical office. So it's not surprising that 56% of real estate agents have a missing or incorrect address. However, that doesn't mean that you don't want to be listed. If you don't have a physical address, that is simply one less way that a consumer can find you. It becomes that much more important that you do have your phone number listed correctly. And as you notice, real estate agents have one of the highest occurrence of incorrect and missing phone numbers. So you have to realize, there's a lot of reasons why you might be missing one particular type of, you might be missing a phone number, you might be missing an address. But all that really means is it's significantly more important for you to make sure the other ways to contact you are available to consumers when they look for it. So as I mentioned, the worst case scenario is when you're missing listings entirely. This means there's literally no way a consumer or a customer can find you. And there's really no other way to look at this. Think about this, though. In our survey, we found that 47.6% of respondents had a negative reaction to the discovery of incorrect local information. Meanwhile, 22% said they wouldn't trust that source again. But here's the number you should all be paying attention to. This is by far the most important number. 15.1% of respondents to our survey said that they look for another option when they find incorrect or missing data while searching for a business. In other words, they will go to your competitors if they can't find you. So with this in mind, we wanted to examine what missing listings are costing businesses. In 2012, there was $723 billion of discretionary spend offline. As we mentioned before, 51% of purchases are by people who do research online before buying at a location. So, taking into account that customers on average use 5 different sources when shopping locally, and 14% of businesses have missing listings, we found that there was $10.3 billion of revenue lost to missing listings alone. Now, this isn't a missing address or a missing phone number. This doesn't even account for all that. This is simply businesses that are missing listings. So take a moment to digest that. $10.3 billion every year. That is enormous. Now, understand this isn't revenue that's lost to everyone. It's not $10.3 billion that's floated away from the U.S. economy. This $10.3 billion still gets spent, but it's spent in stores with correct listings. This is just, what a business is missing by not having their listings correct. These customers, since this is discretionary spend, these customers come into stores looking to spend this money. By not having your listings correct, you're missing out on an incredibly easy sell. So, I've kind of just run you through a very doom and gloom pitch about how local is broken. So let me start to explain, potential ways that you can fix this and how you can really take control of your location data. One awesome tool that we offer at Yext free of charge is our real-time free business listing scan. I want to really show you how this works. So let's see if we can get this link to work. Oh, here we go. This is the landing page for our site that we dedicated to this webinar. When obviously you can look for more information up here, and feel free to come back and check this out for more information later. However, I want to direct your attention right here. When a business comes to our site, we ask for 2 things: your business name and your business phone number. This isn't so we can call you. This is simply to help you see how you're listed across the internet. So what we've developed is a real-time live diagnostic to help demonstrate how a business is listed. Goodfellas Brick Oven Pizzeria, great pizza, located in New York. This is a real business, and this is what it looks like. So we just essentially pulled all our publisher partners and pretty much said, how are they listed on these sites, and highlighted where there's inconsistencies. If you'll notice, the business name is different on Yahoo and Yelp. The number's wrong on MapQuest. As we scroll down and continue to look, Goodfellas is not found on Foursquare or Patch or eLocal. And the list continues, and you scroll down and you get a very good idea of where you're listed. All these not founds are where customers are looking for you and can't find you. These are the places, like here on usc.net, that customers are looking for you, not finding you, and ultimately moving on to a competitor. So I really encourage you all to come and check this out, because you may not realize the issues that you have on the internet. This is a very easy and quick and free way to really see where your issues are and what you need to do to fix it. So the other thing that we put together is a checklist. A checklist for you to really understand your own digital footprint and how you can take advantage of it. So let's run through this right now. Step 1, get listed everywhere. Customers use an average of 5 sources when researching purchases. So make sure that you get listed everywhere that they're looking. And the big thing is really understanding what your presence is like on these top sites. Think about Yahoo, YP, MapQuest, Google. How are you listed there? But you got to go further than that. How are you listed on mobile apps, on maps, on these navigation services? Think about it. Everyone, we've gotten to a point where, yes, what's online is great. However, people don't carry their computers around, or if they do, they're not constantly accessing them. They're often in a backpack. But everyone is carrying around a phone. So when you're wandering through the streets of New York or wherever you live, what you do to find your next spot, the next place you're going to eat, you pull out your phone. You go onto an app like Yelp. You go onto Google Maps. You go onto an app like Posse to really find out where you can eat. Look for reviews. You got to make sure that you are located there too, because that is the point of local discovery for a growing number of potential customers. Step 2, correct your digital location information. And by location information here, we're talking really the first layer of location. If your information isn't correct, bottom line is customers aren't going to find you. So you really want to make sure that your business address is correct, your business phone number is correct. You really want to make sure that when they're looking for you, they can find you. Which brings us to step 3, complete your listings. Make sure you're giving customers the information they want and that they need so that they know if they should make the trip. If they should make the trip, actually make the trip to your store. We're looking at hours of operation, the search category, so that when they search you on these apps and on these sites, that they're actually discovering you. Business website, business description, all these things to help a consumer know whether or not it's worth coming to your store. Step 4, share this deep local content. Now that you've ensured that customers can find you, give them the reason to come. Tell them why they should come by showing them what's inside your store and consequently why they should choose you over their competition. This is where you're going to add your product or service list, your menus. Maybe you're a lawyer or a hairstylist and you don't really have a menu or service list that you can put out there. But what you're selling is who you are. So put up your bios. Tell them how you were trained. Tell them what differentiates you from the hairstylist down the street or the lawyer down the road. Add calendars of upcoming events. Maybe the way you're going to bring them into the store is saying you get half off on Wednesdays. That is something that you can put on calendars, that, to differentiate yourself from the competition. Step 5, keep this location information fresh. Your customers are going to be very interested in new content. So continue to update your location info at least once a month. We have seen a correlation between people and the number of updates they have and the number of clicks they're getting. So update your featured message monthly. Update your business photos and videos monthly if that worked for your business. Make sure you're constantly bringing new information to keep your customers engaged. It's very straightforward. And finally, the final step to all this, track and optimize your listings performance. Like anything else you do in business, the big thing is to go back and study and review what you've done to continually optimize your practices. Figure out what type of content your customers will really like. What do they respond to? What do they find useful? Monitor listing views. Track how many clicks you're getting on your featured message. Keep an eye on the reviews you're getting from your customers. You want to make sure that as you're doing this the best way possible. And for that reason, you need to track and optimize your listings performance. So the local discovery process is moving more and more towards being digitally focused. It's online. It's in mobile apps. And you need to make sure that you manage your location data and keep it up to date. The crux of what I'm getting at, and if I've said it once, I've said it a million times now. If a potential customer can't find you, they will move on to a competitor, and that's just not good for business. By keeping your location data up to date, you will ensure that customers can find you, and consequently, you will drive more foot traffic. So before we open it up to questions, I just want to show you a couple other resources that we had out there. For starters, for more about Yext, feel free to come out and check out www.yext.com/pl/yext-webinar. This you'll find more information about what we offer, the benefits for businesses of all sizes, and that's where you can get that free scan we talked about. If you want to go into more detail, the facts and figures I threw out there, check out the Yext Quarterly. There's some really cool stuff, including an interview with Andrew Mason, the former CEO of Groupon. Some really interesting thoughts from, both Andrew Mason as well as Craig Sterling and Andrew Shotland. So the link's on there. I'd read it out to you, but it's pretty long, and I'm sure it's going to save us all time. But there's the link. Go for it. Finally, if you have any questions that you either think of later or don't get a chance to answer, don't get a chance to ask in this question and answer session, feel free to email me. My email is tdonahue@yext.com. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions, and if I can't, I'll direct you to whoever can. So I want to thank you guys all again for coming out and open it up for questions.
Tyler, thank you. That was really good information. Some of the data points you had were pretty stunning. I want to ask you a couple questions about the background of the study as well, and then as people start asking more. So ask questions, everybody, and we'll address these to Tyler. Do you see any difference in terms of industry as to, are there certain industries in the local space that are really good at updating their listings and other industries that are not as good? Or is it, or are the same commonalities, do they cut across all verticals? Do you have that data, Tyler?
I don't have the data specifically off the top of my head. However, I can tell you generally, this listings issue is it's a pretty big epidemic across all verticals. The question is not whether someone's avoiding it, it's a question of how badly it's affecting their vertical. Obviously, as I mentioned before, there are some industries where it's part of the nature of the industry where it's, real estate, it's more likely they're not going to have an address there. But, honestly, pretty much what we're finding is there is always a great new app or always a great new local discovery tool online or for mobile that's coming out. And, as a consumer, that's awesome. It pretty much means that, I know that if I'm looking for tourist attractions, I can go to TripAdvisor.com. But if I'm looking for food, I can go to Yelp. And it's great because it ensures that, I am getting the most specific search possible and getting, going through a search engine or a discovery tool that will get me exactly what I want. And it's crazy the stuff they're doing now with bases off of people who like this would also like this, and that's great for the consumer. But for every one of those that comes out, it's just one more thing for that business to have to update their information on, and that's really why it is an epidemic across all verticals. And to add on top of that, you obviously have, the large horizontal publishers. You have the MapQuest, the Yahoos, Yelp. They cover across tons of different verticals. But then, there's, ZocDoc, which is just for doctors. You have all these different vertical sites that also are very specific to these businesses. So it's really just there's no real industry that we have seen that's avoiding this. It's just a question to how badly you have listings issues.
Well, and to your point, and I wonder if you could address this too. So we've done, a fair bit of digging on local search as well, and we find that, and you can speak to this better, when there's a Google search for a specific product in a specific place, often the listings results on a Google page are the first results that appear. They're not necessarily the organic website of the business. They're a listing on some sort of third-party site, to your point. Is that really at the core of this? Is these listings they're what's going to populate search results in Google, even if someone doesn't use Yelp or TripAdvisor. These listings will populate search results.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up. The whole idea of, we would be lying to ourselves if we didn't recognize that, if there is one place that people are going to look things up, it is Google. Obviously it's not the answer, and there's a lot of other different sites that we've been talking about, but the leader in discovery is Google. I mean, they're mammoth, they're huge. However, the interesting thing about this, and I'm glad you brought this up, is a couple things. One, we've had people come up to us, and I've been at conferences and met with SEO guys and SEM guys, and the one thing they always say is, well, most people use Google. Why don't I just make sure that my clients are listed correctly on Google Places or Google Plus Local, whatever they're calling it now. I can't keep up with their terminology. But what if I just made sure that we're listed on there? And, that's great. It's a great first step. But the thing is, and it's going to be great when let's say you own a pizza shop, McKay's Pizzeria. If someone goes on Google and searches for specifically McKay's Pizzeria, yeah, if you're on Google Plus or Google Plus Local Places, whatever, you're going to be that first thing. It's going to be great. However, what if someone just searches pizza in the Salt Lake area? Just a very generic search. You're not necessarily going to be put up there. What's going to be put up there is the sites that come out, so this is why it's so important to make sure you're listed correct across the internet. Because one, on those generic searches, you're going to find that the people who have the same content, like business names and addresses and phone numbers, across the internet on multiple sources with multiple citations, they're going to rank higher in Google. Secondly, like you said, the top search results are those other sites. So, there is a very big benefit, obviously, to be listed on Google. However, you're missing out on a lot. You're going to pick up on the direct intent searches, the ones who are saying, I want McKay's Pizzeria. But you're not going to pick up on the people who are saying, I want pizza. And the vast majority of people are going to be saying, I want pizza, not I want McKay's Pizzeria. So that's really, why you really want to think about the entire internet and everything that, this digital age has to offer as far as local discovery is concerned.
Good point. And to your point, we did just some random, I mean, anybody can do this, right? Just do some random Google searches, tires, Austin, Texas, or pizza, Salt Lake City, like you said. And you'll see, I think, pretty consistently that 6 of the 10 results maybe are from these these listing sites that will populate the search results. So they're not organic listings for the company. I think that shows what you're saying is accurate.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy how many different sites are out there, and when you think about it, the mind-boggling amount of time it would take to update all these. It's just one of those it's one of those issues that has kind of developed out of technology that you never really thought about when you just had a Yellow Pages. The Yellow Pages made it so simple. It was just a one-stop location. But as I mentioned before, it was a very wide-firing set of location or local discovery tool. Whereas now we have much more focused, and as a result, there's just so many other places that businesses need to control their information.
Let me ask you 2 other questions that people are asking here. Doug asked a question. He says, how is the scan on your website, on the Yext website, impacted if you have more than one location? Will it just compare individual locations to one another? How does that scan work if you have multiple locations?
Yeah, so with multiple locations, the scan is built currently for one location. So pretty much what we have done is the big part of that scan is the phone number. Obviously, there can be more than one Joe's Pizzeria, but there's not going to be more than one Joe's Pizzeria with the phone number 212XXX. So the main thing of that, so what it would do is it would compare for whichever the phone number is listed, it will compare that phone number to it. So if you're a multi-location business, it will only run on one location. That being said, we work a lot with multi-location businesses, and for a start, it would just give you the scan would give you just one location response. However, moving down the line, this, our product would help you with both locations, and that's something I'm more than happy to talk about. However, the scan would just compare to that one location that that phone number is listed to. And let's say it's a situation where you do have two locations, but you have the same phone number. You're really missing out there on how to differentiate your business. So you really should have two phone numbers for a phone number for each location. So that phone, whatever phone number you, sorry if I ramble a bit, but the phone number that you put in would ping back only on that one location. So it wouldn't compare your issues to another location, because that really wouldn't tell you anything.
Great point. Great point. Two more questions here, one for me and then one for you, I think. So we're still having a lot of people ask if the webinar will be recorded. It is being recorded. Just go to logmycalls.com and click right in the middle, sort of bottom of your screen. There's a link that says Webinar Series. You're going to see recordings for all of our past webinars and then the upcoming webinars as well. So as soon as this webinar is completed, I'll put the recording there so everybody can access it. And then, of course, I think Tyler will share that via email, as will we. And then finally, the question, this is a good question from Randy. He says, is there a cost involved in running the scan? You've said that it's free. But what about fixing the data points? Is that where your paid service comes into play?
Yeah, so that is where our paid service comes into play. And something that we really stress is a year-long subscription. Starting point for a one-location business is just under $500. And the thing that you have to realize, though, is the first step is obviously, and I kind of ran through this in the checklist before, the first step is definitely changing your location data and making sure that your address is correct and making sure that your phone number is correct. However, the next step is then making sure that it's consistently up to date. And that's really, what we really pride ourselves in providing to the businesses out there, is that they have the ability to put in special added content that you wouldn't normally get through a regular listing. These is where, like, when I'm talking about photos and videos and a featured message, menus, bios, all that stuff is special to Yext and to a Yext listing. And we really pride ourselves in enabling businesses to consistently update and continue to update it. Continue to say, hey, we have a special going on, 2-for-1 ice cream cones, or we have a special going on next. All these things that you continue to update and make sure that you're consistently engaging with your customers at the level of local discovery. So that is where we monetize it. The scan is free. It's our way of really just kind of showing you this issue, because to be quite honest with you, most people don't know about this issue that's out there. We're at a point where the majority of small business owners, and not to generalize, but a lot of the small business owners out there are still trying to figure out how they are going to take advantage of the internet and how the internet's going to work for a local business. The internet is this enormous source. It was for a reason called the World Wide Web. How are they going to make that work hyper locally? How is the World Wide Web going to work in Farmington, Connecticut? How is the World Wide Web going to work for the small town outside of Boise, Idaho? And that's really the question that we're trying to get at here, is you can go after this stuff locally, and that's really what's happening now. Is the way to do that is just acknowledging where consumers are finding businesses, and they're finding businesses on these listing sites. They're finding businesses on these apps. So it's a roundabout way to get back to it. We monetize our product on that year-long subscription and giving businesses the ability to tap in to the power of the internet in a very hyper-local sense.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Well, Tyler, we appreciate your time today, sir, and everybody, we appreciate you for coming and joining us today. Good information. I encourage you to go get the free scan, and then also encourage you to take advantage of that 30-day free trial of Log My Calls. The only other thing to mention is, as I said, the recording will be available on logmycalls.com in the next little while. And then if you do have questions, email Tyler directly or feel free to email me. You'll get a follow-up email tomorrow that will have the recording in it as well. So thank you for your time, everybody. Any last words, Tyler? Any final points to make?
I want to, obviously, as you said, encourage everyone to check out the free trial Log My Calls and check out our scan. I want to thank McKay and Log My Calls again for doing this with us. You know, this is one of the first times we've done a webinar, and McKay made it very easy for us to do it. So definitely check out Log My Calls and take advantage of local listings and take advantage of ways to drive foot traffic. The Internet's a really cool place, and it's kind of still you know, the Wild West frontier of sorts. And there's a lot of ways that you can really take advantage of it and drive yourself some foot traffic. And I want to thank everyone for coming out.
Thanks, Tyler. We appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.